Welcome back to another conference preview with Hoop Scoop Media. I'm joined by Luke at College Hoops Outlet on Instagram, CHO Talk Sports on Twitter today. And yeah, this is your first conference preview of the off season on the YouTube on the Hoop Scoop Media podcast. Are you excited to chop out some A10 action?
Yeah, I don't think I would have helped you guys too much with the SoCon and Conference USA, but I'm excited to share the A10 takes I got.
Yeah, me and Kyle really dive deep into some of the worst conferences. The ones we did so far, definitely towards the upper echelon of the mid majors. But yeah, Luke's awards conference predictions are still. If you want to see what he thinks about those conferences, they are up on our Instagram. You should go check those out at Hoop Scoop Media. While you're at it, follow our Twitter too /X. We will start posting that stuff there as well. And yeah, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already and you're watching. Perfect time to do it. Post notifications, and you will get notified for every new conference preview we post. This is our fourth one of the off season. So yeah, still got like 27 more. So you will not want to miss those. But yeah, A10, we got a pretty good one. And I kind of think this conference is back on the upswing after it was really, really tough 2 years ago. Last year was a little bit in between, but I think now it's getting back. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I I like the conference. I like the top five teams are all really good, and there's a couple other teams that could
Hmm.
make things interesting. And yeah, I think previewing everything, I guess I think there's three teams that can make the tournament.
Yeah, yeah, we will break that down. But yeah, just some background information. Last year was the eighth ranked conference in Canada. Actually, like a 5 spot increase. It was 13th the year before, tough year, but yeah, it's back on the rise. And Richmond and Loyola Chicago, they tied for the regular season championship, but Duquesne ended up with the conference tournament championship. Dayton also made a tournament as an at-large and was the highest ranked Ken Pom team, and both Dayton and Duquesne won a game in a tournament before their season ended in the round of 32. But yeah, just looking at where some of the all conference members from last year are. Deron Holmes, the second from Dayton, he is off to the NBA, started his pro career. Josh Cohen from UMass transferred to USC. Matt Cross from UMass also entered the portal, ending up at SMU. Jordan King for Richmond exhausted his eligibility. Eric Reynolds is back at St. Joe's, and Max Shulga is back at VCU, committed to Villanova this offseason, but decided he did not want to play for Kyle Neptune, which I'm not sure if I blame him in that situation. Second team, a few Duquesne guys exhausting their eligibility. Jimmy Clark III, Day Grant, both are out of the program. Keyshawn Hall from George Mason transferred to UCF. Des Watson is back at Loyola Chicago. Neil Quinn from Richmond exhausts his eligibility. And St. Bonaventure big man Chad Venning transferred to Boston College. On the third team, Nate Santos, another player who entered the portal but returned. He will be back at Dayton this year. James Bishop, the fourth, exhausts his eligibility. Jameer Brickus transferred to Villanova and stayed committed to Villanova, so he will be playing there this season. A few Loyola Chicago guys exhausted their eligibility with Philip Alston and Braden Norris. And Gibson Jimerson, another guy that entered the portal but decided to come back to his new school. This time it was due to a coaching change, and we will get right into that. There were two coaching changes that happened in the league this offseason. The first one, Josh Schertz taking over at St. Louis, replacing Travis Ford after Ford was fired. Rough last few years there, but yeah, I think we both really like Schertz.
Yeah, it'll be hard for his team not to compete right away at
Yes,
the top of the
elite,
conference.
elite offensive coach, maybe the best in the country when it comes to schemes and running an offense and all that stuff. We'll see how he looks up a level, but he has some good players. Jimerson, one of them. We'll get into some of the other ones shortly. But yeah, led Indiana State's NIT final. And yeah, offense was elite. The other coaching change, Drew Joyce III, is taking over at Duquesne following Keith Dambrot's retirement. And yeah, internal promotion. Joyce, he was on staff And yeah, any major thoughts on that one?
No, I think all the or most of the guys at least were graduates that Joyce kind of lost, and so it'll be a bit of a rebuilding, even though he's taken over the program from within. But I think he'll keep them competitive.
Yes. Yeah, definitely got a big transfer haul this off season. But yeah, getting into what we think those awards will look like this year, starting off with Player of the Year, the best player in A10. Who is your A10 Player of the Year, Luke?
I had Max Shulga written in my spreadsheet for the last like 2 weeks maybe, and then today I switched it to Eric Reynolds. So
Okay, I have neither of those players because I have Robbie Avila, the transfer from Indiana State to St. Louis following Church. But yeah. Both respectable picks there. Um, both star players from pretty solid teams. Freshman year for freshman year, I went with Hamad Musa for Dayton. Really highly regarded recruit from I believe he's from like the UAE, which like Qatar, somewhere in that.
well, yeah, one
But
of
yeah,
those two. I think it's
yeah.
Qatar.
Same, they're kind of, I think they're both like in the same like thing or whatever. But yeah, he is really highly regarded. Definitely has a lot of pro potential. So I think he is the best freshman in the conference.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of hype towards him recently. I went with Luke Bamboy. I hope that's right. The VCU freshman. I think that front court's a bit open with Lual and
Yes.
I'm blanking on the other guy's name right now, but I think there's space for him to get minutes in that front court.
Yes. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I'm also blanking on who's even in their front court. Um,
Lual
Bairstow,
and Kwani left.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
definitely
Bairstow
some
played a little
minutes.
more, I guess.
Definitely some ins to get there, especially at the five. We'll see how maybe like Furman adjusts to like a full-time starter, but definitely minutes to be had there. With my defensive player of the year, I went with Miles Rubin, Loyola Chicago, elite defender, elite rim protector. He is really good.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him play this year. I had the same pick for the defensive player of the year.
Yeah, hard to really go against that. Super athletic, super high ceiling. Definitely another guy in the league with tons of pro potential and will be playing basketball for a while. But yeah, just going into our all conference teams. I'm
I'll throw out my
assuming, yeah,
newcomer of the year, I guess, but
okay,
Robbie Avila, I mean,
yeah,
he's your player of the year, so I have to assume.
yes. But yeah, first team. I'm assuming since you mentioned both Shulga and Reynolds, they both made the first team and they were my
Yep.
first two guys on the first team as well. Along with, did you have Avila in the first team then?
Yeah. You want me to just go through it, I guess? Or
Yeah.
I'll, yeah, I went Shulga, Reynolds, Darius Maddox from George Mason, Nate Santos from Dayton, and Robbie Avila.
All right.
I
So
had
I
those two.
I also had Maddox on there, and then I went Zedkey instead of Santos for Dayton. I think Zedkey is going to be really good at this level. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
what your thoughts are because he wasn't like that. I mean, he was fine at Ohio State, but I think this is like the perfect level where he's a totally different player from Holmes, but I think he's just gonna really get a lot of buckets in the paint.
yeah, I think his physical presence will show a lot more dominance in the
Yeah.
A10 compared to
Really nice
Maddox.
touch around the rim too.
I guess I'll mention him now. I had him third team
Okay.
in
And
my
I
list.
had okay, yeah. I had Santos on my second team. So just going into second team, I have Isaiah Swope on there for St.
Me as
Louis.
well.
Um,
I've got you got it.
all right, I have Xavier Brown for St. Joe's. Really nice duo in the backcourt next to Reynolds.
Yeah, Brown coming back for his sophomore year. I think 45 from the field, 40 from three, shooting percentages, average like 13 a game. I think I think there's even more buckets to be had with Lynn Greer out of the.
Yes. Yeah. So did you have him there as well?
Yeah,
Um,
I went Xavier Brown and Isaiah Swope as I kind of tried to list them position wise when
yeah.
I line up those
That's
at the
it's typically
two.
what I try to do, but sometimes they get like too like guard heavy, honestly.
Yeah,
A
there's a
lot of
couple
mid-major
conferences
conferences.
I have five guards. Yeah,
Yeah, and I had Santos as previously mentioned as well. So and who's your next player?
Joe Bamisile for VCU. I
Okay.
think a full season for him. I think his numbers take another step up, and him and Shoga light up.
Yeah. I did not have him in my all conference teams. I will say for some reason like the A10 has like six-man conference teams. So if that were the case for me, which I'm not going to do that because there's only five players on a basketball court, I would probably include him in that. But yeah, just missed a cut on all conference teams for me. The fourth guy I had on my second team was Darren Buchanan Jr. for George Washington. Um, as a redshirt freshman last year, he had a really impressive year despite not being on a great team. Now he's going to be the clear number one option with Bishop out. Garrett Johnson will be hurt this year. So yeah, I think he'll really put up some numbers.
Yeah, his numbers are going to be something to behold. But I've I'm very low on George Washington, so I had him on the
Yeah.
third team. Just the team success aspects kind of weighing down.
Yes.
My fourth guy, I had Gibson Jimerson, another St. Louis
All
guy.
right. Yeah.
It might be tough for three guys in the first and second teams from the Billikens, but I think they're all going to have insane numbers.
Yeah. I had Jimerson third team. He's gonna be he's a perfect fit for shirts. I'll say that. Like it's such a good fit.
Yeah, I feel like Schertz is maybe the one coach that could have brought him back to St. Louis. And
Yes. He's gonna be lighting it up from three playing with shirts. But yeah, my last member of the second team was Miles Rubin.
yep, same there.
All
I guess
right.
we already kind of talked about him, but yeah, huge impact defensively, and then now a sophomore. I think everything's going to take another step up.
Yes. Moving to the third team, I had his teammate Des Watson, all conference guy last year. Um, yeah, it's hard to see why he wouldn't be another impactful piece.
Yeah, I've got Des Watson as well.
Yeah, another guy had a transfer into Rhode Island. I have Jamarcus Lawrence coming from Nebraska. I think Lawrence was kind of a guy I always liked in the Big Ten, so I probably gonna like him even more in a little bit of a lesser conference.
Yeah, I like Rhode Island overall. I went for Lawrence's teammate Sebastian Thomas,
Yeah.
boomerang transfer back in from Albany, I think.
Yes.
And yeah, I think he'll succeed in the A10. He's been here before, so
Yes, definitely. And he wasn't good before though. But like that's I'm kind of like I don't know what to expect from him because he was like not that good, but he was like so good at Albany. Like is he just like good now or was he just like not built for the A10? But I'm still pretty high in him because he was really good this last season. But yeah, I have Jimerson and then I have Reed Bailey for Davidson. Definitely a guy with some pretty high upside and Davidson. I don't know. I think they're going to be a little bit better than they were last year, and I think
I,
he definitely has the upside.
I went through it. I went through it. They had Kempom 125 last year, which
Were
was
they that
like,
high?
yeah, which definitely didn't have them wherever they finished in the A10. But
They're going to be
I
higher in the
noticed that.
conference.
Yeah,
They're going to be
I
higher
have
in the
them.
conference.
So I that's kind of I was agreeing with you there. Like I think they were better than their record showed this year, and I think they're probably a step better um coming into this season. I don't have any Davidson guys, but Reed Bailey's a guy I
Yeah.
picked out when looking at Davidson.
Yes. Let's see. And who else did you have on your third team? Or do you have anyone
I went
left?
with Lejay Jones, St. Bonaventure.
That
Um,
is the guy I also had coming from JUCO level, JUCO national champion. one of the top JUCO players and could be the leader of the St. Bonaventure team that is going to be pretty solid again.
Yeah,
If Woj is your
I've got,
general manager now, that's something.
yeah. I mean, I guess we could talk about the Bonnies a little later, my thoughts on them, but I think um, they'll be in the middle of the pack, and I think Jones will get the nod over guys like Reed Bailey just based on team finish wise. But I think it's a pretty close race there. And then my final two guys were Darren Buchanan Jr. Already talked about him, and then
Yeah.
Zed Key as well.
All right. So moving to the all freshman team, we can probably kind of fly through these because I doubt we're too knowledgeable about freshmen. Although this is kind of the point where like we kind of know who these guys are. So I had obviously, I had Musa as he was my freshman year. I also have his teammate Marval Allen, a redshirt freshman who was actually like a pretty highly regarded prospect in last year's class. And yeah, if he lives up to his potential with a year of development already under him, he could be pretty solid for his Dayton team.
I Do you want me to just go through my list, I guess?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
I've got Noah Belonga from
I
St.
have him as
Bonaventure,
well.
and then Nate Garangamba, hopefully
Okay.
something close to that from UMass, and then Musa from Dayton, Bamboy from VCU, and then the Desir Haskins from St. Joe's.
Yeah. Yeah, so I also had Belonga and then my final two guys were Daniil Glaskov from Loyola Chicago, international. I'm not sure which no Loyola has a few international guys. Um I'm just gonna double check where Glaskov is from. Maybe yeah, Russia. That's definitely a Russian name. And my last guy was Jaden Smith or Fordham, pretty highly regarded recruit for Fordham standards. Even though I'm not super high in the team this year, if could definitely be some potential for some solid minutes as a first year guy there. Moving to our breakout players, I'll start with another Fordham guy. I have Jameer Tripp. Um, again, Fordham being a team I'm not super high on, that kind of still gives them some like opportunity for players to break out since I don't think their team is all that great. So I think Tripp is a guy that I could see definitely taking a jump.
Yeah, my number one breakout guy was Miles Rubin, which I mean he
Okay.
was already a
Yeah.
fantastic player last year, but I think the numbers will pop more this year. 6 and 5 last year. Obviously the nearly 2.5 blocks, but
Yes. Another guy I had on my breakout watch was Jalen Curry for UMass. Had a solid freshman season, wasn't all that efficient, but got some solid minutes, showed some flash of scoring, passing, on ball defense. And yeah, he definitely showed the makings to have a solid sophomore year, especially under Frank Martin, who's I think will probably make most people good over time.
yeah, I think you talked about the shooting inefficiencies, but I think just a natural jump up as a sophomore, he'll get at
Hmm.
least slightly more efficient. I included him as well in my list.
Yeah. Another guy I had was Sean Simmons, a second for St. Joe's. St. Joe's definitely has some intriguing pieces, as you mentioned Haskins a second ago. So yeah, Simmons, a guy who did play last year, but another guy that was a pretty highly regarded recruit for St. Joe's standards, for A10 standards. And I think since they're relatively limited off the bench, their starters will play a lot, but I think there's definitely space for a few of these guys to jump and make some big contributions off the bench, Simmons being one of them.
Yeah, my next guy on the list, I had Kareem Rozier from Duquesne, and there's the space in the backcourt now with Clark and Grant gone, and I think he can have a bigger step up this year. 38% shooter from three last season. I think he fits in well with the incoming transfers that are going to surround him.
Okay, I also had Duquesne guy. I went a little bit different direction. I went Jakub Nikas. Um, Skilled forward, should be able to be an impactful shooter. Just he definitely has the skills, so I think believe he played international competition. He is from the Czech Republic, so yeah, definitely a guy that has a pretty high ceiling. That Duquesne has a different look of a roster this year, so I think he could be a guy that could kind of stand out among everyone else.
Yeah, I think especially the returners on the teams where the head coach leaves, but the internal hiring,
Hmm.
I think those guys that stick around, it'll be similar system.
Hmm.
Um, we'll see a lot more in other conferences, but I like the pick.
Yes. And did you have another guy?
I got two more that we haven't covered yet. I got Ja'Cory Hutchinson from George Washington. I
Yeah.
think he can be step up and kind of be a guy next to Buchanan.
Yeah, I went with George Washington as well. I chose Trey Autry instead. Both Autry and Hutchinson, pretty solid freshmen, but definitely a lot of room to grow there. So, yeah,
Yeah, I think
GW had a good freshman class last year, and we'll see if these guys can make the jump.
yeah that those two Hutchinson and Autry should be in the backcourt with each other. So if not both, then at least one of them should.
Yes. And then your last guy.
Final guy, Delani Hunt from Richmond. Um,
Okay.
I think there's points to be had in the backcourt.
Yeah,
Already
I
going into
mean,
his senior year, but the most efficient
someone's
guy in that backcourt.
someone's got to step up there. Yeah, not a particularly like huge Delani Hunt guy, but like again, like someone has to step up, and he is
And I
like
think
their yeah, he's
uh,
like their best returner. So
yeah, best returning guy, and then I think Chris Mooney will keep them competitive. So
yeah,
points
yeah,
got to come from somewhere.
yeah. They'll be a little bit better than their roster looks like, but it's not looking great in my opinion. But yeah, just moving into our top 10 transfers, we can fly through this list. Number one, I had Robbie Avila. I assume you
Yeah,
had the
same there.
same. Number two is will probably be a little different. That's where I had Zed Key.
I went Swope at two,
Nige Swope at three.
and then Key three for me,
All right. Four is where I had Jamarcus Lawrence.
and that's where I had Sebastian Thomas. Just kind of
All
our
right.
differences on that third team again.
Yep. Number five, I have Pasha Alexander, incoming Dayton point guard.
Yes, same for me. I don't think he has a as high of a ceiling as Key, coming
Yeah.
down a level, but I think he'll still be a solid,
Yeah, definitely
impactful guy.
a lot of mixed reactions from people on Posh, but I think all in all, he'll be solid. Like I don't think he's that good, but like he also should be a plus level A10 starter, I think. But
Yeah,
yeah. Number six, I had Jack Clark for VCU, phenomenal defender.
Clark's a guy I didn't have on my list. Hindsight, I probably should have snuck him in somewhere down there. I went Justin Moore at six, the point guard for Loyola
Yep.
Chicago in from Drexel.
Yep. Number seven, I had Zach Laput for Davidson, D2 standout coming from Bentley, I believe. And yeah, he really filled up the stat sheet for them last year. So I think he could make a pretty big impact in D1.
Yeah, I like what he can provide. I have Kobe Johnson seventh in my list. The
Yep. I
West
had
Virginia transfer in at St. Louis.
number eight, I have KD Johnson. Definitely a very controversial player, but I mean, he'll be an elite defender in the conference, and I think he'll be fine in A10.
Yeah, the way I'm hyping Auburn coming into this season, I don't think I can hype up one of their departures in the A10. But I think KD Johnson will still be solid, but I didn't have him on the top 10 my
Yeah, I can.
transfers. Eighth eighth for me, I went with Melvin Council Jr.,
Okay.
the
Definitely
Wagner
good shot
transfer.
creator. Yep. Number nine is Red Sebastian Thomas.
Okay. I went Philip Russell. Should be the sixth man for VCU.
Yep.
And I think there should still be enough points for him to put up decent numbers off the
Yep.
bench.
And the number 10, I went with Derek Simpson. Rutgers transfer over to St. Joe's. Should definitely be better offensively at St. Joe's than he was at Rutgers.
Yeah, I like that pickup. I think he'll be um a good addition for that St. Joe's backcourt and kind of can allow Brown and Reynolds to get more shots and kind of be more of a distributor. 10th, I went Jashawn Corbett for Duquesne. I think he'll be the standout guy in their transfer class, and I talked about it a little before. I like what they brought in. So
Yep. Yeah, so now those are all of our all conference awards teams, top transfers, all that fun stuff. Now we are going to break down every team one by one. So starting from worst to first from last year's standings. So we are going to start out with Georgia Washington. They had a rough second half of the season last year. They started out 14-3. They finished the season 15-17. Not great, but so where do you have them in A10 this year?
I went with George Washington in 12th. Um, they're going to be dependent on that sophomore class, as you mentioned a bit earlier, Buchanan, Hutchinson, and Autry. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's teams with higher ceilings in my eyes, but
Yeah, I have them 13th. Definitely a huge blow having Johnson out for the season after how good he was last year. Nice stretch forward, but him being hurt is going to be tough. We obviously talked about Buchanan pretty good. I like Gerald Drumgoole. Think he's a pretty solid addition. Like I don't dislike their transfer class. I actually kind of like the guys they brought in with Drumgoole, Rafael Castro should be a fine starting big in the conference. Sean Hanson's from Cornell, pretty solid. Trey Moss from William Mary is kind of whatever, but he played a solid amount there, scored in double figures. Can play a little bit of point guard, but yeah, overall, I just I don't like how they finished last year, and with losing Bishop, who, even though he definitely had his downsides, was just such a dynamic scorer and passer. And yeah,
yeah, I can see the case to like try to inch this team up the standings with a lot of sophomores that could still take another jump, but I don't know. I do want to see what Castro provides in the A10 as a center.
yeah, for sure. I mean, he's been like good analytically at Providence when he played, but he's never played enough to really give a full perspective of what he's going to be like. Yeah, like I don't hate the guys. I just don't see like how this roster is better than last year and they were bad last year. That's kind of my
Yeah,
reasoning. I think it
there,
just,
there's a
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of other teams I would rather kind of buy into.
yeah. Still, jury's still out in Chris Caputo. I mean, I'm not inclined to trust him after that disastrous end to the season. But at the same time, I'm not gonna say losing Bishop is like addition by subtraction because he was so good. But like, I also like kind of see where you can make a case that like, well, like he was so good, but like maybe it's time to like move on and like play a little bit differently because he was just like taking all the shots. I mean, he was good, but I don't know if you get what I'm saying with that.
Yeah, kind of not one dimensional, I guess, but in a sense, and then kind of opens up the floor for other guys to shine.
Yeah, definitely like your young guys. Christian Jones, redshirt freshman, another guy to monitor this year. So yeah, we'll see. The young guys are good, but not a team that I think is going to be overly competitive. Next team, even though we're still very early on, going from worst to first to St. Louis, I think this is a team that will be overly competitive. I had them first.
Yeah, I have them fourth. My 1 through 5 is like nationally, it's right in between like 45 and 65. I think they're all really solid teams. But
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that, but I think I had like St. Louis like clearly in first, not like super wide margin, but I'm pretty confident about them being the best team. I think Robbie Avila, I think is he was the best offensive transfer in the country. Is that a bold statement or is that like just like known?
that's a statement where I could probably take another side off the top of my head. I'm like, yeah, go for it. I think that's a good take to be had.
Yeah. But yeah, Avila's great. He is like kind of hurt right now, but I think he should be good by the season. And he's also not a player that like uses athleticism because he's all skill, all size. Yeah. So I think don't think that's going to be like a huge issue, but I do know that he's currently sidelined. But yeah, Swope. Speaking about players that are injured, Swope was like hurt for the last part of the season at Indiana State and still played pretty solid. Now he should be fully healthy this year. Can really create shots despite his 5'10" size. And yeah, you bring in
Yeah,
back Jimerson, who, again, as we've said, perfect fit for shirts.
yeah, you've got Swope, Jimerson, Avila. I think that's kind of your big three.
Hmm.
Kobe Johnson, a
Should be
nice
a good glue guy.
yeah, a nice glue guy, and then Kalu Anya, the guy from Brown. I think that's another glue guy that you
Yeah,
can plug in.
should be a guy that could really help the defense out. Because Ava's obviously not some huge defensive star, but yeah, they also got a few other transfers that are intriguing from a high major level. AJ Casey was not that good at Miami, but his he was a really highly regarded prospect coming out of high school. Definitely still a very skilled player for his size, and I think Schertz can really work with that. Josiah Dossler, Creighton freshman. I didn't see a ton of time at Creighton, but with 3 years of eligibility left, also a good shooter. Despite 18.2% from three last year, he's a guy that can shoot. So I think he's perfect for shirts. Larry Hughes, Kellen Thames, I like his role players. So a lot to like about this team.
Yeah, I think Hughes and Thames will be solid bench pieces for them. And then my
Hmm.
note on AJ Casey was just good level for AJ Casey question mark. So I think he can find a spot. I think he'll be off the bench to start. I think I'd rather have Anya in the
Anya,
starting
yeah,
role,
I would agree with
but
that.
I think he can provide something there. And then Dotzler, I feel like more of a future guy, but
Hmm.
um,
Yeah,
he could definitely
see,
show some flashes.
yes. Yeah, a lot to like, and everyone is probably going to be elevated under shirts, which is why I do have some questions about some of the Indiana State guys that did not follow him, most notably the ones that went to Texas. Yeah, Scherz is just such a mastermind offensively. All of these guys are going to get good looks. Um, yeah, this
I think
is going to be a fun team.
I mean, quick tidbit on the Indiana State guys. I like Ryan Conwell going to Xavier, but I think
Yes,
the duo Julian Larry and I forget the other that went to
Jason Kent.
Jason Kent that went to Texas. I'm not high on them, at least
Yeah,
contributing at Texas. But
neither am I. But yeah, St. Louis going to be in the top tier at least. Think we can both firmly agree on that statement. Next team up, though, Davidson, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, actually finished 125th in KenPom, which is crazy because they were 5-13 in conference and feel like they weren't that good, but apparently they were better than they were better than their record, which is a good thing, sort of. It could mean that they could surprise some people this year. Did a little bit different team, but I have them at 10th though.
I have them 11th. Um,
I kind of like them a little bit. Let me pull up their roster. Yeah, I like Laput. I think he has to be good, but I think he can be pretty good.
yeah, and then you were a little higher on Reed Bailey
Yes,
in
Reed
the
Bailey, a lot of
competitions,
potential there.
and then Laput in the transfer. So it makes sense you've got them a spot above, but yeah, I think it's another team. They were better than their record showed last year, and should be better this season. So maybe 11th ends up being a bit low.
Yes.
Yeah,
But I also don't think like 11th is like that bad. Like the A10 has like a lot of like okay teams.
and in my eyes, you're not breaking up the top five, and then
Yeah.
6 through 11. can really that's their own tier, the way I see it.
Yep. But yeah, Connor Cochera also returning, just solid starter. I feel like you know what you're gonna get out of him. Bobby Durkin, another starter coming back. We'll see what they do at the big man with Sean Logan coming back. Not a big offensive piece, but definitely a solid defender. Joe Hurlbert coming in from Colorado, never really played there, but was like a four-star a few years ago. So we'll see. I think it's a good fit for him. We'll see if he can be good. Um, got a few international guys off the bench, international freshmen. We'll see if they can become anything. Davidson certainly succeeded with international guys in the past.
Yeah, I think Hurlbert can finally show something this year, and
We'll see. He didn't play like at all at Colorado, which is like a
yeah,
little concerning. I feel like he should have got a few minutes, but Davidson
they,
seems
they
like a good fit.
yeah, and Colorado ran a pretty tight rotation, especially this past season. So,
Yeah. Anyway, next team up is Rhode Island, who I have eighth.
um, I've got the Rhode Island Rams seventh in my rankings.
All right. I kind of like this team, but I also kind of liked them last year, and they kind of fell apart down the stretch. Archie Miller is kind of on the hot seat now.
Yep, I've got Archie Miller make or break year. One of
It
my notes
it
lists as
is
well.
a make or break year for him, and I think this has a potential to be a make though. I mean, Thomas and Lawrence, both really good transfers. We'll see how Thomas does because obviously, as we mentioned before, he was not great in his previous stint at Rhode Island, not super effective offensively. Definitely still a skilled passer, but overall just pretty inefficient. But he was great at Albany. Still not a guy that's a great shooter, but can get to the rim, can find his teammates. Combined with Lawrence, kind of a combo guard look there. Um, who I actually liked watching Nebraska, and I watched Nebraska quite a bit, so definitely someone that I really like at this level, especially Jaden House, another guy that really scored a lot last year. David Green, guy that got eligible late. Uh, David Fox, Fuchs. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. Don't want to pronounce that wrong, but
Yeah,
yeah, sophomore big man, another big breakout candidate. I think he could be pretty good as well.
yeah, yeah. Really, that whole starting five is a solid bunch in my eyes. And if it was around last year, probably a much higher finish in the conference, but or rather
Yes.
2 years ago when the conference was really bad.
Yes, one thing I really liked about the Rhode Island team last year was that they were super athletic, had a lot of athleticism, and even though they lost some of those guys that really made me had that take, such as like Luis Corright, Zeke Montgomery, I still kind of feel the same way. Um, Bringing in some like high major guys, House and Green, good athletes, even like Quentin DeBunje coming over from East Carolina, former Tennessee guy. Think he could be a really solid guy off the bench. A few random transfers, Drisha Traore, Javante Brown. Two guys should be good to eat some minutes. We'll see if they can, how much of production they can bring. Cam Estevez, rising sophomore who averaged 7 points a game. So, and they got Always Right, who's fun name, but he's also super athletic. So,
Yeah. I'm interested to see if Javante Brown kind of carves out a decent sized role on the front court
he's never
as a
really
rim
been
protector
good
guy.
anywhere he is, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's definitely more of a rim protecting big than Fuchs. So we'll see how the minutes get split up there. But I do think Brown played like really good on their international tour. I think I remember seeing some box scores and he was putting up some good numbers. I'm not sure how much that means. I mean, it probably doesn't mean much, but um, definitely a guy that can be more than serviceable for his center backup minutes. Rhode Island also paid him like way too much though, because he was one like last bigs in the portal, and Rhode Island needed a big. he
Yeah, I
got a little
mean,
bit too much money.
we
I don't
we saw what
remember.
happened with
Yeah,
Jeremy Famina, the transfer out for Rhode Island. So
yeah. He was gonna be off the bench at High Point, but decided he wanted to go to Mississippi State instead. Fun times in the portal for a big. That's
got a bag for it though. So
if you're a big in the portal, you use the market wisely and get paid because a lot of these guys are not going to get paid nearly as much in their pro career. But yeah, next up is LaSalle. I have LaSalle last. I have them 15th in the conference. Not a team I am particularly high on.
yeah, I went LaSalle 15th as well. Top line in my notes is very bad roster.
Fran
So
Dunphy, like, he's not going to let them finish last, though.
that's there's two lines on the notes. Very bad roster, line one. Line two, can Fran Dunphy make miracles happen and get this team out of last, which he's known
And
to do.
and I think he will. But like this team is also not that good. Ja'Shawn Shepard, I like entered the portal 2 straight years. Does not want to leave LaSalle apparently though, because he is back at LaSalle for the second straight year. Um, got a inner city transfer from Jaleel White, should be a big defensive piece there. You got Mac Etienne, who was like not playable at DePaul, so I'm not inclined to believe he'll be good. But again, he also Mac Etienne was like better on like a really good UCLA team than he was on like the worst high major team ever.
Yeah, that I don't know. Which if you keep it up, then he's probably even worse at LaSalle. So I don't know. That's one way to look
LaSalle's
at
going to
it.
be better than DePaul was last year, so maybe we can. I don't know
Yeah,
where I'm going with
that's
that.
I
Their
like
other big
Demetrius
man
really
is
from Penn State, like
yeah.
more
I mean,
so than ETN based off
yeah,
last year.
he's probably better than Etienne. Interesting
There's not
backcourt
much.
transfers. Eric Acker
Yeah,
and Corey McKeithen. Acker was one of the highest scoring freshmen in the country, but he also played at LIU. I think there's definitely some potential there with his youth. McKeithen,
yeah, man.
yeah, I'm not super moved by this roster, but Fran Duffy is going to do something like to make them better than they should be.
Yeah, yeah, we'll look at the standings at the end of March next year, and they'll be 13th or 14th. But
Yeah.
I, I'm not predicting that.
Yep. And next up is Fordham, and I have them right next to LaSalle, sitting at 14th.
Same on the sheet.
Yeah, Fordham is not back to like the cellar that they've always been in, or not always, but like typically have been in. But they're also not that good. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
there's defense there, and they'll probably squeeze out some 60 to 50 wins against the bottom teams in this conference. But yeah,
this is not a team that looks too appealing on paper, especially on the offensive end. They were bad offensively last year, and I don't know
I mean,
who's gonna do anything on that end.
if you've got the roster sheet pulled up, you go straight down the 3-point percentages, and the highest you're sitting at is 34.4.
Yes. Jackie Johnson. He could be he's back in the conference. He was at Duquesne a while ago. Um they also got Matt Zona from Notre Dame, who's
Wants to get on the
I
court for his final year. That's how I view it.
that is one way to go. But yeah, I I don't hate Will Richardson. Um
Yeah, I could
thought
see
he
him making
would
a jump.
yeah, he was a good recruit, not that efficient last year though. Again, not a lot on this roster that excites me. Abdul Simbila is a really good rim protector, which does kind of line up with their defense being definitely a strong suit of the program, but their offense might be like too bad at it. Are doomed on defense, and I mean their
Yeah,
defense isn't that good.
yeah.
So
Simbila is the last guy I had left to to mention on mine because yeah, as you said, great rim protector. Keeps them solid defensively, but the offense is yeah, I'm not looking forward to watching a Fordham game this year.
Yes, definitely not on my one of my teams I'm excited to watch either. Next up though, St. Bonaventure finally kind of moving past the bad teams. And the Bonnies I've seen it seventh, just around at like top 100 range nationally. Um, yeah, I kind of like this roster.
I've got St. Bonaventure ninth.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm as in on the roster, but they're always solid under Schmidt, and I think that'll be the same case this year.
Yeah, they have Woj now too, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. How much do you think of like an impact it's actually gonna make?
Um, I I feel like you're gonna start seeing better incoming transfers, a couple better recruits. Like we've seen like James Madison pick up a couple 4 stars. UCSB picked up a high
I
rated
got a guy
recruit today.
today.
Yeah.
St.
Um,
Bonaventure can definitely do stuff like that in a better conference with whatever contacts Woj has.
yeah. Obviously that'll be an impact for the future. This year, I think I'm most in on LeJay Jones. Mentioned him in the
Yeah, I mean, I
all
think
conference
he's
games.
he's a guy that kind of like has to be good. If you want to be good, he has to be like really good. Desante Bowen is also a guy that probably has to be good because their bench is very unproven. Um, Council though you mentioned earlier, I do like can really create his own shots. Um, was a guy like that Wagner. He was like their only healthy guy.
Yeah, especially when it got down to the end of the year. Yeah, it looked solid in I think it was the first 4 game
Yes,
that they
yes.
played in. Yeah, but yeah, same thing here. The shooting kind of lacks in my eyes. The three
Yeah,
most likely
Jonah
starters
Henson
also
can shoot it
in.
though. I'm pretty sure. He was in Northwest Missouri State Bearcat like 2 years ago. Shout out.
I'll believe you there then.
Then he went. I'm pretty sure he's a good shooter. He redshirted here, so like I don't know.
Yeah,
I remember like seeing his like transfer portal announcement on Twitter, and I like looked up and he was in the cafeteria. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, he went JUCO, got like a million offers, and his offers to Bonnie's. I think yeah, he's their source of shooting. Also, in addition to him and Lajay Jones, they got Michael Fullerin, um, JUCO big man from Salt Lake. They're JUCO that constantly produces some good players in winning seasons. They have some intriguing freshmen. Dwayne Thompson, I know a lot of people liked him last year. He was reclassed and redshirted, so could be ready to kind of step into his own this year. Noah Belonga, who is not on the roster according to, is Noah Belonga even at St. Bonaventure anymore? I don't know.
I got to update my all freshman team then.
That could be an issue. If he's no longer on the roster, I'm gonna search Twitter to see if there's any updates on this. Hmm,
What team you got next? I can kind of try to go over my search.
let's see. Next up will be St. Joe's. I have a lot to say about them. So
Okay, yeah, I can start us off. I've got St. Joe's projected third. Um, should be one of the best backcourts in major basketball, probably alongside St. Louis. But Eric Reynolds, my conference player of the year. And you got Xavier Brown, stud 3 level scorer. As a freshman, I think he takes another step. And then third guy in that backcourt, Derek Simpson, a good ad. I think he replaces Lynn Greer well, and I think he plays that role better. Share the rock, and I think he defends well as any Steve Peichel guy would do.
yeah,
What's the
I
scoop
I've
on
I
Belonga?
have I have no clue. Half the stuff about him was in French, so I don't even know. But yeah, St. Joe's. they need a new coach.
Yeah, I two questions at the bottom of my notes. Who impacts off the bench, and then can Billy Lang not waste the talent?
Like this team could be like at large good if they had a different coach. I honestly think so because like Brown and Reynolds is like an elite backcourt. Brown, everyone loves to break out, including me. And Reynolds is a proven stud scorer, can really shoot it. You got Derek Simpson as like kind of the third member of the backcourt. A lot of people loved him at Rutgers. Again, as you mentioned, Steve Peichel, not an offensive coach, at all. He's actually produced some very bad offenses, but um, Simpson is definitely in a better position to succeed offensively, which I think is kind of what he is best at. Another guy who can kind of dish it out, create his own shots. So those three will be fun to watch. And you got a front court duo, Fleming and Ajigbo. Fleming is a guy that I really like. Really good rim protector. And then speaking about rim protection, Ajigbo is like the best in the country, arguably, coming over from Harvard. And then you have the guys that have to bench with potential. You got like Finkley, Simmons, Haskins, as you mentioned, Steven Solano, as a freshman big man that I like.
Yeah,
But Billy Lang has never won at all at St. Joe's.
there's 1 year to buy in, and it's this year. I think I have to with how good this
Hmm.
backcourt is. I could probably sit there as the coach and take this team to the tournament. That's how I don't know. That's how I feel on it. So
Yeah.
hopefully Billy Lang can do the same. I like Ajagbo in the paint. I think um he's a great replacement for Esendoko, and I think
I think he's better.
took
I don't really think,
Esendoko kind of took away from what the backcourt did last
I
year.
mean, like, he was like, I see the appeal with him, but I don't think he was actually that good. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't think St. Joe's was the spot for him.
No,
And
yeah. Definitely, yeah. Definitely, I see the appeal for him and why he went high major, but I think this team is honestly way better off with Ajigbo instead.
yeah, and I also think um Three Man Weave had the Eric Reynolds interview at the end of their
Yes.
A10 preview. Listen through that, and he talked about Rasheer Fleming at the five some, and I think that is when St. Joe's
Hmm.
could be at their best, especially offensively.
Yes, because I definitely have guys who can fill in at the four when Ajigbo's off the bench. Haskins, as you mentioned, redshirt freshman. I know he's been getting a little bit of hype, so this team is going to be a fun watch. Like some of these teams, like LaSalle, Fordham, I'm not really looking forward to watching. This team, I am really looking forward to watching. And if they put it all together, this could be the year.
Yeah, I St. Joe's and St. Louis. I have St. Joe's third, St. Louis fourth. I think those are
Okay.
probably the two most exciting teams in the conference. And you
Yeah,
put them on the same court, I'm probably trusting Josh Hurts to get the job done. But I've
absolutely.
got, I've got St. Joe's ahead. I want to buy into this team, and hopefully
Yeah.
Billy Lang can prove you right.
I have them at fifth though. The top few are pretty close, but the Lang is holding them back. But they have they have potential to really even climb it a little bit further. Next up is going to be George Mason. Um, I have them sitting at six, right below St. Joe's.
Yeah, I think sixth is the safest spot for George Mason. They aren't on that top five echelon, but the best of the rest is how I would put it.
Yeah, I mean, Maddox is a proven guy, especially in this conference, but we both had him first team. Will be the star of his team. Got Jalen Haynes finally playing after redshirting last year after transferring in from East Tennessee State. Obviously, I have KD Johnson, who is an experiment in itself, but yeah, I mean, this is a pretty solid team. I think we both like Tony Skinn more than we did Cam English, so
Yeah,
there's that.
I'll save Providence takes for later.
Yes. But yeah, Billups
I
comes back really good defender. Zach Anderson
I,
coming in from Florida Gulf Coast. But
yeah, Zach Anderson's the guy I want to touch on. We did the George Mason team preview in our top 100 countdown. That was later sadly canceled, but I really like what I saw when I looked at the film for Anderson. Yeah, 46% from
yeah,
three, 48% from the field. I think he can
I
be a
mean
really solid piece.
he won them that game over FAU this year. So
Yeah,
he could definitely really good plug and play guy in this conference. Yeah, next team up is Duquesne. I have the Dukes in the first year to Drew Joyce era at 11th. Um,
I've got the Dukes at eighth.
yeah, not a team I'm like thrilled about. I don't know if I like their transfers or not. It's kind of just like a bunch of guys that are like A10, like fifth best player level.
Yeah, yeah, I respect that. Maybe third or fourth when you're looking at like Max Edwards, but that was also on
He was like the
a lower
fourth
echelon
best
team.
player on the worst team in the conference.
Yeah. Jashawn Corbett's my guy out of that class, I would say. And then I think he'll be
I like
solid.
I like Alex
Think
Williams. Good shooter, decent size in the wing. He's probably my favorite out of the transfers personally. But
yeah, yeah. You got Williams and Edwards on the wing there, along with Corbett, and then um, I think Dinkins will be a decent enough point guard. I mean, eighth in the conference is middle of the pack, so
hmm got Jake DeMichael coming back too. Was a walk on, but like started for him last year.
yeah, him, and
That was
then
fun.
Nikas that you mentioned in the breakout. I think those guys could have
Yes.
solid years off the bench.
Yeah, David Dixon coming back as well. Really big guy, really physical in the paint. Um got Shabi Bare backing him up, formerly known as Halil Bare. Eli Wilborn kind of as well could slide into that five spot. I'm just yeah, as I mentioned, I'm just like not really thrilled by anyone on this roster. Like who's gonna be their
Yeah,
best player? Like, is there a best player caliber type player here? I don't think so. But it's not a
I
bad
yeah, I think
roster.
that I think that goes back to what you mentioned. You've got four transfers coming in that are kind of like solid guys, and then you combine that with three impactful returners.
Yeah, Brandon Hall,
This,
JUCO guy. But we'll see. Definitely a team I'm interested to watch just because of that. Like, kind of want to see who's gonna like assert themselves. But should be a solid team. Like they'll compete at least. Next up though is UMass. I have the Minutemen at ninth.
I'm actually a lot lower. I've got UMass at 13th. Um, I'm just
Frank Martin's
not
not gonna
bought.
let them be that bad, is he?
I'm not all in on what they've got back, losing Cross and Cohen. Um,
Yeah, those are big losses.
and then I like the backcourt, Curry and Diggins, but
Yeah.
I'm
I
meh
don't
on the rest of everything.
I don't dislike this roster. Daniel Rivera is kind of an underrated get from Bryant. Really solid defensive piece. Akil Watson, I guess, still has some upside. They got Shahid Muhammad, who's an elite rim protector. So definitely have a few guys who can really protect the rim there. Jaden Digi, whatever you pronounce that, another rising sophomore, along with Jalen Curry. Got Daniel Hankins Sanford back, former South Carolina guy with Martin. Yeah, Frank Martin's is probably going to make them a little bit better than they should be, though. I think it's kind of what I
Yeah,
just like always come back to.
I think that's fair. Um, I like the other teams a little better, but I could see UMass over George Washington for sure, at least.
Yeah. Next team up is VCU, and I have them at fourth.
I've got VCU second. I
Yep.
trust Ryan Odom as um, a head coach, and I think they'll be one of the top two teams. They're kind of them alongside Dayton are the two guys I trust the most at the top of this conference.
Yeah. Another team with a really, really fun backcourt was Shulga, Bamisiel, Zeb Jackson. You mentioned got Philip Russell, really good player for UT Arlington off the bench. So a lot of pop there. Front court's obviously, as you mentioned, a little more questionable, but Clark is an elite defensively. And Furman, I think he's pretty good. Um,
Yeah,
and if he's
I think
not, yeah,
Bamboy, and Furman can um Furman can be a
yeah,
formidable trio in there.
yeah. Fats Billups, off the bench was another highly regarded recruit. We'll see, if he can pan out a little bit more this year. Michael Bell, international guy they got last year, and I also got some other freshmen off the bench. We'll see about those guys, but overall, yeah, Ryan Odom can coach. It's not that far away from first in my predictions, even though they're fourth. I know a lot of people have VCU winning the conference. I would not be surprised if that happens. So definitely a team that I am interested to watch this year. Next up, we got Dayton, who, despite finishing third in the conference standings, was far and away the best team in the conference. I have them sitting at second this year.
Yeah, I've got the Flyers first, as I kind of previewed
Yeah,
there just a moment ago.
yeah, pretty safe bet to finish super high, even though they did lose Dron Holmes, which we will see how they bounce back from that. But I think Zed Key, I don't really want to say he's a good replacement because he's not even close to what Holmes was as like an All-American type player. But yeah, I think Key's post moves and size are going to make him a real factor in this conference.
Yeah, I like Key, and then Santos should have an even better year. Back after entering the portal, coming in, and then
Yes.
Posh Alexander. Um, I don't know, maybe a little weird fit, less shooting in the backcourt than what they had last year with Brea and Elvis
Yeah.
is the other one that left.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't think Cheeks is that bad of a shooter. Although his percentage was not great last year. Um,
Yeah, he's better than the
Mhm.
30% says, I think, but yeah, then you're
Yeah,
trusting um, guys like Musa and Allen, the freshmen, to step up. Um, Malachi Smith back from injury. I like
I need
Javon
him to stay
Bennett.
healthy. I loved Malachi Smith when he was healthy, but he hasn't been healthy in like 2 years,
Yeah, I think he's played 7 minutes in 2 seasons or something like that. 7 games in 2 seasons. But
something like that.
I like Javon Bennett. He was out last
He
year at
was
the end
like
of the year.
sneakily good last year.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that'll split time with Smith in the point guard role.
Hmm.
And then I saw a lot of love for Jacob Connor over like the last
Yeah,
week. I don't know
I
what he'll
was
really bring, but
I liked the intrigue, kind of an athletic four, with size. Like even though he was average like 6 points and like a not great Marshall team, I definitely see the intrigue for taking him. He's also a local kid, if I believe. So I don't know. Dayton fans probably like that, but yeah, I do like kind of like that. Like I see the vision for him. Um,
Anthony Grant on the sidelines. I think I gotta believe in him. Put him first.
yeah,
He's I don't especially recent. I don't know. You've got
yeah. I
Billy
mean,
Lang as a top
yes,
competitor. Drew Valentine up and coming. Ryan Odom kind of newer to the league, but another solid guy. And then Josh Shirt's first year in. Um,
yeah.
should be
Anthony
probably the
Grant.
best coach in the conference, but
Yeah, I mean,
Shirt's that is.
definitely. Yeah, but yeah, Anthony Grant's been dominating this conference for a few years. Even though I don't love him as a coach, but I think it's unfair to not trust him at this point after what he's done the past few years. I think this will be another tournament team for the Flyers. And moving on to Loyola Chicago, tied for first with Richmond last year. I have them at third this year.
I've got Loyola fifth.
Okay. I was like so ready to be done with Drew Valentine, but now I'm way back in on him.
Yeah, I mean the whole worst to first thing. I think they definitely like exceeded what anybody thought they could be, and I think it's a little step back this year. I do like Watson being back, Ruben being back.
Yeah, I mean, I really like their transfers. Justin Moore obviously is so-so, but coming from Drexel, good defensive program at least. The offensive ability at least is definitely there. Francis Nicoria, I really like coming from UC San Diego, can shoot it, skilled four. And then I think
Yeah,
he fits really well with Ruben, I will
yep.
say.
I was just gonna say that like him in the front court. I prefer him a lot to Deloach, the other guy in.
Deloach was like
Yeah,
super good in the conference like 2 years ago though, so
well, yeah. I'd rather buy in on McCory.
yeah, I think Deloach
And
is
then
probably going to be
just the
more of
thing on
a
last,
Ruben replacement.
yeah, just the thing on last year. I mean, Loyola was the fifth best team according to KenPom in the conference. So kind of like Davidson, where Davidson was kind of screwed by the uneven schedule. Loyola Chicago kind of got helped out by that. It was a close outside of Dayton and VCU last year for third, fourth, fifth, but I don't know. I don't think it's too far of a step back, first to fifth.
Yeah, but I definitely like the direction the program is trending in. Kamani Winsu, another really athletic guy coming in from Washington State, played a lot of minutes on a really good Washington State team. He's going to be a nice piece off the bench. Jaden Dawson returning should be in the starting lineup now. Jalen Quinn, another returning guard. They got some with Glaskov and Hendaway, some really high profile international freshmen. So I am like fully bought back in on Drew Valentine.
Yeah, I'm bought in on him. I just think that those other four teams are going to be even better. Dayton, VCU, St. Joe, St. Louis, but I think you can
Yep.
definitely give Valentine the edge over Billy Lang
Yes,
if you want to
absolutely.
factor in the coaches a bit heavier.
Yep. And then last team, Richmond, somehow won the conference last year. I have them at 12th this year. Where do you have them?
I've got Richmond 10th. Lost four double digit scores. It's yeah, a completely different team from last season.
Yeah, like I don't want to put this team this low, especially because we know how good Chris Mooney is, but I'm struggling to like find the appeal on this team.
Yeah, you've got to buy in on Tyne, Hunt, um, Roche, all taking a step. I put Hunt
Yeah.
on my breakout team, but yeah, there's not too much to get excited for.
I think Neskovic has to be really good, which I think is like not unreasonable, but he's also coming from a really bad team, or he was like still good, but he has to be
Yeah,
like the piece that is really good.
and he was solidly efficient even on a bad Dartmouth
Hmm.
team. But
He is a guy that I actually do like. George Washington the third, known as a good shooter. I think he'll need to be like starting level.
B. Artist White, um, I don't know what thoughts are on
Mm,
him, but it's
don't really have
it's
any, honestly.
yeah, it's kind of gonna be either him or Tyne. You've got two 5'10" guards on the roster, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um, Jonathan Beagle, solid front court transfer from Albany. Overall, it's hard to see this team not taking a step back, but I did not expect them to be nearly as good as they were last year. So maybe Chris Mooney can do something, but I'm not thrilled by this roster at least.
Yeah, I think last year was a really lopsided team, very good defensively, kind of mediocre offensively, and I think both spots probably take a step back.
Hmm.
especially a guy like G Bailey leaving and then Jordan King.
Yeah, Neil Quinn too. Neil Quinn was awesome. He's an elite passing big man, which don't find too many of those. Mike Walls actually did have a pretty high assist rate, so we'll see if he's able to kind of be like a little bit like Neil Quinn-ish.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
see the vision there from Mooney, but
we'll see. Any more thoughts in the conference?
um, I guess just kind of going back to overall thoughts. I think Dayton and VCU make the tournament, and then St. Joe's, St. Louis, there's probably only room for one of them. And that's where, I don't know. I've fallen more in love with St. Joe's than St. Louis, but that's probably because I was a Drake guy in the Missouri Valley these past couple of years. So
Yeah, yeah, but I have St. Louis and Dayton probably both making a tournament, and then that next group of teams, 3 through 5 specifically, with Loyola, VCU, St. Joe's, I think they definitely have the potential, but I don't think they would make it. I don't have them in my what would be my field right now. So, but yeah, definitely, I think one of those teams. I kind of think one of those teams does end up making it though, like somehow. Um, but overall, this is going to be a fun conference to watch. Definitely competitive up to like 12 or 13. Just those bottom two teams aren't great, but are pretty solidly coached for like bad teams, so they definitely could pull out some sneaky wins. But yeah, A10 is kind of back on the rise after that one terrible year.
yeah, you've got in my eyes, Dayton and VCU are like the two most consistent teams, really. That's why I've got them at the top of the
Yeah.
standings. And then St. Joe's and St. Louis are probably your highest ceiling teams if everything turns out right. And I think those are probably your two most likely winners to win the conference tournament. Stretching together
Yeah.
3 good games.
Yeah, I definitely see that. But yeah, appreciate everyone for watching and listening in. If you're on YouTube or the podcast platform, yeah, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of our other 27 or whatever conference previews that we have left. Make sure to follow us on our social media platforms at Hoop Scoop Media, Instagram and Twitter. Make sure to follow Luke on there as well at College Hoops at Instagram, at CHO Talk Sports on Twitter. And yeah, any more thoughts before we wrap the A10 up?
Buy Miles Rubin stock now. That's probably about
Yes.
it.
Yes. If you haven't done it by now, you're kind of late, but I think you can you can you can kind of sneak in and
I think yeah, a monster year is still to come. There's a lot of hype building, but I think it's for good
yes.
reason.
But yes, if you haven't bought it, buy it now. And yeah, that is a final note because we will see you. Don't know what next conference is going to be, but we will see you soon.